Okay. So we're going from $150 for T10 to $600. And of course, it was another, and they brought it down, I think it's around $300. This is the controlling contract. It's not a supply and demand situation. This is just if we can make money. So, and this is a prime example of what's going on. This medicine was doubled in like 6 months. Wow. Yeah.
Your medicine?
That's normally where they, what?
One of your medicines?
Yeah, I do. I'm like almost everybody else in Louisiana. I'm on thyroid medicine to a low end of my diabetes. 6 months ago in August, I picked up this script. And, well, I have a bad habit of writing when I pick it up and how much I pay for it.
I like to be cold.
In August of 22, page 15, that's what I paid. Now, this is also through good already. This is not through our system. Picked it up today. This is today. 31.10. It's double in price. I'm sorry? Well, one of the things this is what I did. 30-day strip, 30
It's too late for that.
and I found that I need to
So we really have the other day, and I saw you together. You worked it. You know, we're out of time.
This is already, it's all good.
I was like, man, Matt's emailing me. I was already on the phone.
Yeah, so with that, I don't know what you think to yeah, well, we don't well, let me just I'm sure y'all see him. You didn't get one? How are you, sir? Good. Good. Doing all right?
Okay, and we can get started. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Okay.
Carol? Here. Mary Jane? Here. Katie is excused. Butch?
Here.
Brunel?
Here.
Vicki? Here. Phyllis? Here. Smitty? She has a late run, but she said she's coming. Donna?
Here.
Mia?
She's had a tire issue, but she's on the way.
Okay. Angela Lee? Matt?
Here.
Kevin's here. Shannon is excused. She's ill. Tanya? Here. John?
Here.
Julia? And is our new member here, Stephanie James. She's the new Apple representative.
Yeah.
Right, first item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Julia. Second is Butch.
Yep.
Any comments from the public that's here? And welcome. And thank you. One of our former members, Keith, is here, isn't he? Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Any comments about approval of the agenda from the public or the committee? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next item on the agenda is Hub International Report. Does everybody have one? Need a report?
I took them all, so I'll just need one. We need a couple of more because I gave them out already.
Need probably 3 more, Lynn.
Somebody can have.
Oh, you printed yours?
They'll just have to sign when they come in.
You can't even drink? You know that.
That's good, and then we'll just do this. She was just reading the roll call, she's just like, talk, and you're right. So then he.
All right, everybody has a report.
Okay. Lynn, you're up.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is going to be data through 12/31/22. Just to kind of set the table, when we met last, through the third quarter, we were at a decrease in cost of about 11.7%, with a planned cost right at $661. We're still ended the year with a nice decrease in cost, and actually one of the lowest costs in the last 5 years. But the first half of the year versus the second half of the year, quite different. But we are seeing some decrease in claims currently, and I'll walk you through all of that. So participation-wise, 5522 on the Blue Cross plan. You see that we've increased on the Humana plan to 239. Total participation count up about 1.1% from 5696 to the 5761. Medical claims at 32,860,000. Prescription at the 24,290,000. Total gross claims at 57,150,000. Plan reimbursements, nice increase there, up to 11,093,000. Retiree drug subsidies increased as well at $1,846,000, leaving us a net claims figure of 44,210,000. Our fixed cost, right at the same. The only change is a little demographics there. We did not have a big increase, or virtually no increase in fixed cost at $4,043,637. You add your retiree Humana premium at $635,000 for a total plan cost of $48,891,666. That averages to $707 on a per employee per month basis, and is a 5.6% decrease over the previous year. You can see that costs have remained very flat over the last couple of years. We, a 0.3 in 2019, 2.3, almost breaking even, and now the 5.6. I will tell you that in the last quarter, though, that we really had some high claims. Folks that have get to the 100% level, and that increases claims. We really had an uptick in high-cost claimants with regard to mostly cancer, circulatory, that type of thing, and I'll go over that in more detail with you as we go through the report here. Second page here breaks it down to more of a per employee per month number, concentrating on these bottom bullets here. The participation up at 1.1%. Medical claims actually decreased about 2.4%. All of the different metrics here, you can see that utilization of claims from 20,000 to 50,000, that went down almost 3.5 million. Next category from 100 to 300, that's also down about 1.5 million. Where we had increases were on these jumbo claims from 300 to 500. That was up about 700,000, and of course we had one member that actually went over the 500,000 at 726,000. So it's high-cost claims, so there's jumbo claims that really affected plan more than anything else. Prescription drugs up 8.3%, while high-cost medications increased at 13%. Mostly diabetes, anti-inflammatories. The net cost of prescriptions, because of our increased rebates and discounts, actually decreased about 5.3%. So on a net basis, prescription drugs actually down. And I can tell you not many cases have that kind of data where the increased discounts and all that actually made them have a negative number. Prescription drugs are just going up on everybody's plan, especially in that anti-inflammatory and diabetes category. Plan reimbursements up some 44%. Retiree drug subsidies up 40%. Retiree premium per employee per month decreased. Of course, we had that Humana renewal decrease there. Total paid claims net of reimbursements down 6%. Our funding also decreased about 5.6%. So let me explain that to you. You know we didn't have a rate change, so why is our funding down? Well, our funding's down because we've got more singles than we had, okay? Single versus employees that are adding dependents, and at the same time we've had some migration to a high deductible health plan and all of that. So when you average all of that in, we actually collected less funding into the plan, and of course that makes for a difference when we talk about funding versus cost there. Our funding on a per employee per month basis down about 2.3% on the employee, our retiree contributions about 1.7, averaging to almost 2%. So we went from 745 to the 731 there. Net employer costs down 7%, and of course we have the surplus there. I'll point out to you on the first page the surplus in the bottom left-hand corner, $1,677,000. When we reported at the end of the third quarter, that number was $3,650,000. I'll give you one other figure here. I've computed some at Q3. Our net claims and our total plan cost is running about $661. Q4 $707. So we saw some increases in claims, and you'll see that more so on page 3 here. When you look at the net claims number, and you see September at $2,000,008, October $5.3 million, November $5 million, and December coming down to $3,000,001. I will tell you, of late, we've seen some very favorable claims in January and February. January still continued to be a little high in the beginning and then came down because now you've got a reset of all of your deductibles, co-insurance, that type of thing. So I always talk to you about that weekly claims number that we see, 550, 600 kind of breaking even, and we had several weeks in the last quarter that were 7s, 8s, 9s. We even had some 7-figure weeks, but of late they've been more under the $500,000 mark. We've had some 400s, even one under 400,000. So that's favorable going forward. Taking you to page 4, you can see how we're bearing out on an accrual basis, and this is of course on our fiscal year. Fiscal year wise, and I'll point you to the bottom right-hand corner. On a fiscal year basis, we're at a $5,431,000 deficit, but that doesn't include monies that will be coming back into this fiscal year and that's what that bottom note is there, the $2,000,005. So we're really going to be approximately $2,000,008 that will be credited, which will bring that deficit balance down to about $2.5 million. And then, of course, we've got some favorable months that will be coming in January and February. On page 4, same type of data there, and then of course page 5 is just previous year on a paid basis, and then page 6, previous year on that fiscal basis. Enrollment-wise, and we've kind of covered this in the first couple of pages, and it's not a big change, but I can tell you this basically explains the funding to you and why the funding's going down, even though we haven't changed any rates. Our single employee count is going up 2.1%. Employees with dependents has actually gone down about 0.5%. So you can see that the contributions would be affected with that demographic change. No real difference in the data as far as enrollment by plan, but I do have some 2023 numbers for you here. And you see that in 2022, our Blue Saver plan accounted for 22.9% of the participation in the plan. After the 2023 enrollment, that's increased to almost 24% at 23.8%. The enhanced plan has dropped from 15.3 to 14.7, and basic is now going to be at 61.5. So you can see we had migration to the high deductible health plan and also some migration away from the enhanced plan. And if you remember from previous meetings, and you'll see this in one of the forthcoming pages, that the enhanced plan does not support itself. The claims are higher than the funding, about break even on the basic plan, and then of course the high deductible health plan is profitable, and that basically what you would think it would be logically, because most of the people that are going into the high deductible health plan are pretty healthy.
Lynn, I missed something. You said what was breaking even?
Ma'am?
What plan was breaking even?
The basic plan.
And you said high deductible was what?
The high deductible plan is profitable, meaning that the claims versus the funding the claims are favorable on the high deductible health plan. Page 9 talks about membership. Membership is the number of bodies in your plan. Enrollment is the number of employees and retirees. I can tell you your enrollment went up 1.1. Membership remains stable, so your membership is not outpacing your enrollment. Medical claims down by 2.4% on page 10. And we covered this in previous pages. You can see from the bottom bullets that most of the decrease comes from the smaller claims. We did have an increase on the jumbo claims above 300,000, and then one that surpassed the 500,000. Prescription drug wise, 8.3% increase on our gross number, but a 5.3% decrease on the cost of our prescription drugs after rebates and discounts. You'll see that top 10 medications still only represent less than 3% of your prescriptions, but almost 30% of the total amount of money. Total claims down 1.9%. Total claims net of reimbursements decreased some 6%. Plan reimbursements up 44%. Reimbursements do include that COVID reimbursement in the amount of $1,235,000, but even without the COVID reimbursements, our reimbursements increased 28.4%. This is the page I was alluding to earlier on page 13. And those bottom 3 bullets, the enhanced plan has 14.9% of your participation, but 22.1% of the claims, so not supporting itself. Basic plan, 62.2 of the participation, 63.3, so almost breaking even there. But of course, the Blue Saver at almost 23% of the participation and only 14.6% of the claims is supporting the other 2 plans, or helping to support the other 2 plans.
But it's
With
also
that
decreasing, the Blue Saver decreased our funds by how much?
Yeah, but how
Blue
much?
Saver decreased the funds by how much?
The Blue Saver decreased the fund. I would have to compute that for you. I don't have that.
Yeah, because when you say it's supporting the other 2, you need to back that up with some figures.
Ma'am?
You said that the Blue Saver is supporting the other 2 plans. So I need to know what makes you say that? I mean, is it claims?
If the enhanced plan is not breaking even, if it's 14.9% of your participation, but 22% of the claims, obviously it's not supporting itself. If the basic plan is 62% of the participation and 63% of the claims, it's about breaking even.
But how many people you have in the Blue Saver plan? You don't have as many people there as in the basic or the enhanced.
Right, but
So, I mean, when you say it's supporting the other two, I'm like, really?
It's in the middle. The basic is your first, your
Yeah.
high deductibles come
Okay,
second,
good.
the enhanced is
I'm
third.
good. I'm good.
Lynn, could you calculate for us for our next meeting? Not tonight, but calculate for us the loss in funding from Blue Saver
She was asking if you could calculate
the last
loss
couple of
in
years.
funding.
absolutely.
Or actually, we need an income statement from each one, so that would tell you your question is, you know,
That's what I need
each
to,
one's a
that's
standalone.
exactly what I need to know. Because when you make
Each one
that
would stand
statement,
alone,
then you gotta back that up.
where with that, you know, our
Yeah.
blue statement would have a profit, our enhanced would have a loss, and our
Would break
basic
even.
would have a slight loss,
Yeah.
is what he's saying, but.
But
you're
when you
asking-
look at the financial side, you, yes, no.
I'll look at the premium
Yeah,
versus that.
please.
Total plan cost on page 14, once again, total plan cost lowest in 5 years. Really good first half of the year, claims catching up second half of the year, 5.6% decrease. Good numbers there. Inpatient on page 15, down by 12.5%. Outpatient, down by 5%. Professional claim utilization increased 8.5%. So what does that tell you? We still have a lot of high utilization of folks going to the doctor. If you look back all the way to 2017, the per employee per month number 282, 294, 297, 310, 339, 367. I think some of that will calm down. You know, you had all of that flu season and folks still going back and forth to the doctor with COVID and things like that. That should calm down. Prescription drugs, of course, that's 367, but that is the gross number. So from a diagnostic standpoint on inpatient in 26, on page 16, circulatory is actually down a bit, but what's going up is neoplasms, which is cancer, pregnancy and childbirth. We had some heavy duty pregnancy claims there.
That's the COVID situation.
Perinatal conditions, that was a new one to the category. Also infectious and diseases there, sepsis, things like that. Went up. Our musculoskeletal down. Injury and poisoning down, digestive down, and the two bottom ones new to the top 10. So cancer, pregnancy, diabetes, mental and nervous, those are the ones that went up. On your second page, you'll see that factors influencing health, which is chemo, that's actually gone down a bit. Neoplasm up. Circulatory up on an outpatient basis, and musculoskeletal up on an outpatient basis. All of the other ones equal or down. Top facilities, Lafayette's been #1 for years. We finished the year in Lady of Lourdes was the top, but you can see that it actually came down from a per employee per month basis. The same thing with Lafayette General. With the increase in the cancer claims, MD Anderson made the list. On our prescription drugs on page 19, back up to 87%. From previous meetings, anybody want to answer why? Vaccines. Not having the vaccines, that's why it dipped down to 85% there. So even though we're using, and this is high for a school system at 87%, so people are very compliant to using the generics and that type of thing. So even though you're using generics 87% of the time, it only represents 14% of the claims cost. Shows you the dramatic difference between generic and brand name medications from cost standpoint. Down just a fraction on the number of scripts per employee per month or per member per month, and that has to do with the vaccines as well. When we look at the number of medications, top 10, all of the things that you would want it to be, and you don't see a high degree of, when I look at this for other cases in your industry, and I've told you this in a few meetings before, don't see near the utilization for ADHD, anxiety, depression, all of that, based on what everybody's been through in the last couple of years. I'm seeing other cases where 3 of the top 10 meds are either depression, anxiety, ADHD, things like that. Not in your data, so that's quite favorable. Your top 10 as far as cost goes just shows all of the anti-inflammatories and diabetes. But remember, net of rebate, we're down some 8%. These top 10 meds up 13.8%. And some of these meds, as much as, got a couple of numbers on some meds that cost as much as $45,000, $50,000 a month.
A month?
Yes. PPO savings, and we talk about Blue Cross and their contribution to the plan. Obviously, they're your claims administrator, and they process and pay your claims. They provide utilization review, claims management, all of those types of things. But probably the most valuable thing to your case that they provide is that PPO network. We all know that it's hard to find a doctor or a hospital that doesn't participate in Blue Cross's network. So the people have plenty of choice, tons of choice, and they adhere to the network very, very well. We have very, very small non-network utilization. But at the same time, garnering discounts that hover at 70% has saved your plan millions of dollars over the years, and continues to. That is one of the highest PPO savings percentages that I report. On the same note, to have 97% of your claims paid in network, and please note that the majority of that 3% out of network is Regenix. So you have very, very little leakage, 338,000 in Regenix claims paid. And then when we break down the cost of the plan, I'm so pleased to tell you that the majority of the cost of the plan is dedicated to claims. If you were fully insured, if we weren't under a self-funded plan, we would lose so much control. Okay, we would lose so much of the ability to manage our plan, carve out our pharmacy, and bring in all of these rebates and saving strategies into the plan and all of the things we've done. But I can tell you the fixed cost of what we pay would probably be in the mid to high teens. And you're running your plan for basically 8.4%. So less than 9 cents on a dollar is dedicated to running the plan. The rest of it's purely there for claims. That's a good thing. Contribution analysis. Total plan cost net of employee contributions down some 7%. Good number there, lowest in several years. And the last page is just representative of your claims by size of payment. This same data has been on a few pages before, but you can see that area between 20,000 and 50,000 is where most of the decrease is. And then, of course, the claims over 200,000 is where most of the increase is. And as always, I give you the recap in the back. Any questions?
Any questions for Lynn? No questions, Lynn. Next item on the agenda, Lynn, is yours as well, is the acquisition of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
All right. So I will tell you, it was a kind of a funny day when that announcement came out. I had Blue Cross's director of self-funded business in my office in Houma, Louisiana that day with their regional director, and they were coming to visit me to ask me how they could improve their self-funded offering, and we talked about a number of different things. I said you could go down in your administrative fees, you can get better at case management, you can increase your technologies, and we were talking about this, and it was scheduled to be a 3-hour meeting from 11 to 1 o'clock, and we were going to have lunch in between and all, and they had a call from Brian Keller, who signs all of the letters that you see from Blue Cross, and saying, get back to Baton Rouge, we have an announcement. I didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, we all got the letter. And just as you did, so there was no pre-announcement to anything like that. There's about 20 entities. Blue Cross had some 70 different plans around the United States. Anthem, I think they're at maybe only 22 of them. In other states, when this has happened, has not been anything problematic. We don't foresee any kind of changes of network, no changes on their fully insured rates. Not been told of any changes from headquarters. I mean, still have the big old operation at Blue Cross, so I can't tell you that I know anything. We met with them. They did a special meeting for us. Brian Keller was on a big Zoom call with us a couple of days after, but we put out a notice to all of our clients that you know, we're going to monitor it, but at this point, I don't foresee any type of changes anytime soon. They're just getting started on announcing this, and they've got a lot of things that they're going to have to go through before this sale actually takes place. So there's going to be several months before any of that happens. We'll keep you constantly monitored, but no changes. And you know, the biggest thing that you rely on for them is the network, processing your claims. Claims are still going to be processed, you know, in Baton Rouge. All of those folks have to stay there. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you from other states that have done this, if Anthem probably does have more to offer a plan like yours with regard to technology, more to offer a plan like yours, a big self-funded plan, and some synergies around cost containment, things like that. But I mean, you're still going to have the same local feel because things are still going to take place in Baton Rouge. I don't think that they're going to come in and cut a lot of jobs. You still need those same amount of people to process and pay those claims. So right now, I'm not fearful about anything problematic coming up in the future. If we see anything, let you know.
That's some of us have gotten emails, and you can find anything online, but we've gotten emails that give me some pause when it comes to Anthem and their pharmacy component. It begins with an I. I don't remember.
Miss Nancy, he's having a hard
I'm having
time.
trouble hearing
Okay,
me.
there we
I've got
go.
a husband
Yes,
with
ma'am.
cancer, so that's why I have to wear the mask. I apologize. Some of us have gotten emails that were not favorable to Anthem and specifically to their prescription component. I don't remember the name of the company, it begins with an I. And so my concern, having gone through what we went through with the RFP for voluntary benefits, we want to make sure that there's enough time, if it turns out that Anthem is not the best fit, that we have enough time, and I guess you would draft an RFP and you would go out to United or Humana or whoever else is out there. But I don't know what that time frame looks like. How long would it take to draft an RFP and get the proposals back and get the presentations done? Could that all be done in a reasonable period of time? If it were necessary. It may turn out it's not necessary.
Right, so-
I just want to be
so
prepared.
Let's discuss that time frame. I don't know if we're gonna see any changes between now and January 1st. If we do, minimal. I don't know why we would, I mean, it's your call, obviously, but there's nothing on the table right now that tells us this is problematic. Let's go out and do an RFP and find somebody else because we think that our current administrator is not going to be able to do their job properly. I think that with the Anthem purchase, they might be able to do their job better and bring in more technology, more cost-saving strategies, things like that. Your pharmacy piece isn't going to be interrupted because it's carved out from Blue Cross Pharmacy, and your plan has nothing to do with Blue Cross.
That's what I thought.
Okay?
And so we're gonna move from Silver Scripts to this new company, or we're staying with Silver Scripts?
So that none of that.
No, this is 24, no, 20, yeah, 20.
No,
23.
none of that will be changing, and this has nothing to do with your prescription drugs. So I'm going to remind you, Blue Cross's role in your plan is they process your claims and provide you the network on your self-funded plan.
Okay.
Your prescription drugs have been carved out from day one.
Okay.
And you think the network's not going
Now, on
to
the high
diminish?
deductible health plan, your prescription drugs belong to Blue Cross, but that is Blue Cross internally and their PBM paying for that. So if we saw that there would be any interruption in that, that would be something that we would address immediately.
We've had so few problems with Blue Cross. I mean, really, it's been absolutely wonderful dealing with them. And of course, when you Google, you can find all kinds of stuff. This new company has quite a few negative reviews, and that's sort of scary with some of them because of like the approvals and different things. So it's got quite a few negative things.
I promised y'all
Negative
the
reviews.
last couple of meetings that I could hear next time I come, but I reported to Miss Nancy that I ordered my hearing aids yesterday. I promise y'all.
I'm not talking loud enough then.
I'm his ears for tonight, because
She's
Brooke's not here, Brooke's on the phone, actually.
She's laughing at home already.
He was talking about that we've had such a good run with Blue Cross, so he's been reading reviews and he is concerned based on what he's been reading. Can you speak on that?
Some of the reviews are saying that in some, as far as utilizing the services and whatnot, there's a lot of PAs. You have to get a prior authorization.
Oh, wow.
And then another thing is with but this is their pharmacy, their PBM. There's a lot of drugs that once again, you have to have the pre-authorization, the PAs. So that's the question that's coming up that's being just brought to us with some of the questions from other people who have gone with Anthem.
None of
So
that
this
has
should
been
not-
discussed to us that they would be changing any. First of all, you don't have to worry about pharmacy because you're carved out away from that. The only pharmacy piece that could be problematic is in the high deductible health plan. There's been no word of any kind of change of formulary or anything like that, and they're under a contract right now for their prescription drugs with Express Scripts, and it's a multi-year contract, so they would have to break that.
And keep in mind, Blue Cross is just a processor. We don't have a Blue Cross plan per se. We have a
Right.
plan document that is run by Blue Cross as a processor.
Right.
We
So-
do not have a Blue Cross plan.
And right in what Matt's saying, the concerns that you guys are talking about are very valid if you're fully insured, okay? Because that would all be encompassed into that plan and that, but even the fully insured business, we're being told we're not changing contracts, we're not changing PBMs, we're not gonna fool with our PPO network or anything like that. That is not on the table.
Yeah, I guess the
I mean, if
biggest
I'm looking,
concern on that
I'm
is
looking
like,
at this, Blue Cross's pros to your plan is their network. okay?
Right, yeah,
And that's the strongest one. And that
Correct.
they're local, we can get our hands around the neck if we got a problem.
Yep.
That kind of thing. Staying in Baton Rouge, I can still drive up to Baton Rouge and put my hand around somebody's neck, so that's
Okay.
not changing. The networks aren't changing, and the pharmacy piece doesn't belong to them.
But could the administration cost, that probably will change.
Ma'am?
The administration cost could increase.
But your administration costs are under guarantees and things like that.
For how long?
And those I negotiate with them, and they would be complete fools to come in here
And change.
and ramp up your administration costs, because they do that, we'll leave them in a heartbeat.
All right.
Biggest pieces to the fixed cost of your plan is the reinsurance, okay? Because that's what protects you for a claim that goes over 500,000. And, you know, that administrative fee, I can't tell you that, you know, if, when you do go out for requests for proposal in the future, that portion of administrative fee doesn't vary a whole lot between one company and another. And then it's such a small piece of the whole cost of the plan. And analysis of choosing a Blue over a United, when pharmacy is carved out, most of the weight's gonna be on your PPO discounts.
That's right.
Okay?
right, right.
Most of the weight of that decision would be on how many doctors and hospitals do you
Yes.
have in the network and
Yes.
how deep are your
Yes.
discounts?
Right.
So
Yes.
you compare that and let's say Blue Cross is company A, somebody else is company B. I just showed you that you average around 70% on your discounts, and let's say company B's at 65. 5% of
Yeah.
the amount of claims that you guys pay in a year until your net claims are $48 million. 5% of that's a chunk of money, you know?
So you'll let us know if-
I'm not here touting one carrier over another. I'm just here looking at the numbers and you know, that 70% discount that you're getting right now is something that we definitely want to hang on to and we want to make improvements on.
So if you get any inkling that there would be a change in the PPOs, or there would be something that would cause a problem, that you would need to go look elsewhere.
And my selfish want for self-preservation and to remain your consultant, I would be
Oh, I know you
the
would.
first one motivated to tell you, it's RFP time. If
How
I see
long
the
would that-
ship is you know, here above water and it's there, gotta do something.
Can you give me a general, not specific, but a general idea, if you had to go to the RFP, if something did happen when this contract, whenever this is all finalized, and you decided that we were gonna go out, what's the time frame from?
We would be announcing that or starting that process in like a June or July.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. Thank you very much. Anybody else have questions for Lynn?
Yes, I have. Okay, here's I have one of the people that talked with me. Can an employee on LPSS insurance get another supplemental a policy like through Medicare, et cetera, et cetera? So in other words, they're on Medicare with the LPSS insurance, okay? Can they get a supplemental, just like we have the cancer policies, the eye policies, the dental policies, can that person get another Medicare
No.
supplement?
There's supplemental coverages, but not a true Medicare supplement, so that would be like, okay, if you have, you have Medicare
Yeah,
and, you're on the plan as an active, okay?
retired,
Retired.
Retirement, Medicare is gonna be primary, the plan is
That's correct,
secondary, and both of them mesh to give you basically 100% coverage.
right,
You know, supplementary coverage is gonna put money in your pocket if you have a claim, and you couldn't do that. There are coverages that you can buy, like hospital indemnity, cancer plans, all of that, that might help you with co-pays and deductibles
Right.
and things, but in a Medicare Advantage plan, you really don't have any deductible or out-of-pocket. Your plan's almost 100% covered.
well, that was the question, because I
It'd be, I would, just as a, I guess advice on that, I think that's money poorly spent, because if I have something covered at 100%,
Yeah.
I'm not rushing out to buy anything. I don't want to bet on being sick.
Okay, because in the past, I know we had one of our employees that had gotten a cancer policy, but was with it. Now, this is active, so this is not retiree. But the active employee contracted cancer, but had a cancer plan. So basically was making money because he was sick. And, you know, that's terrible, but that's what was happening.
I can tell you that a lot of folks, some folks will buy every single plan that is offered to them, and they would profit from laying in a bed in ICU because they're going to hospital indemnity, cancer,
It's not a job you would want.
disability,
Yep.
accident. They've got, I had folks that have $250,000, $300,000, $300 worth of payroll deductions for policies, and they're completely healthy, and when we kind of instruct them this, you know,
Throwing it in the hole.
people are very, just want to protect everything.
Yeah. Well, this particular gentleman he's married to an employee here, so basically he's a spouse. And has contracted one of the things that you contract when you get older, and it's like Parkinson's, okay? And so I think that was the mindset there, just to make sure that they're thinking he'll have to have a lot of other things to happen, but then again, you know, that was the question, and that's the reason why it was asked.
That is a perfect example of when you guys need to boast to your constituents about how good the coverage is over here, because, you know, how many other people as a retiree can say that?
Oh, no.
You know, I do not have an out-of-pocket expense here, and I'm
That's true.
being as little as I am for it. That's just a beautiful
That's true.
thing. You know, most people, that's their biggest scare is, you know, I'm 63 years old, and you know, in a couple of years, I'm going to be looking at eligible for Medicare and all of that. I'm going to continue working, so I'm not worried about all of that type of thing. But in the event that one of these days when I do no longer work, you know, I have to go out there and buy a supplement and that type of thing. The supplement that I will buy in the open market is nowhere near what you guys have.
Right.
They don't sell it.
Okay, the next question. If the spouse is the employee and you don't have supplement and the spouse expired before you do, he doesn't get the insurance that she had.
You talking about a surviving spouse, Ms. Mary?
Right.
They're still eligible to stay on our
But
plan
at a different
at a different rate.
Cost.
Exactly, yes, the board.
which is extremely expensive.
Correct, but the board and the sales tax in the retiree portion are not paid on their behalf. So the surviving spouse does pay the higher rate, but they still are allowed. That often becomes, like Lynn just mentioned,
Yes.
still a better plan even at a higher cost, because they're able to stay where they were.
At the higher cost, what would it be? Okay, I know we break it down into 20 different categories. Would it be like the cost for an active?
If you look at the full rate charts, which are online, it's
Okay.
the cost of the the sales tax, the
Right.
general fund, the retiree trust portion, and then the employees portion. So it's all four total, which makes the full sum.
Right,
So I'll give you an example. So if it's an employee, a retiree only under Medicare, it's a $92.70 rate. If the retiree had to pay the full rate, it's over $400.
that's still not bad.
So there's a big difference between the two, but yes, they have to pay the full rate if they're a surviving
That's
spouse.
not, it's still not bad, because there are people that are paying $1,000 a month for health insurance and they're working. This is
Correct,
crazy.
because then they get the 70% discount.
Right, they
on
can,
insurance,
yeah,
correct.
they utilize the network,
But then
yes.
if a spouse and not have worked in our system,
I guess it's what you've retired.
Well, see, that was part of the question, and I didn't bring it out, but if the spouse is deceased, then the cost is gonna go up, but they can still utilize the network and still, I mean, it's gonna be a higher cost per month, we know that, but there again, that's gonna be offset if they tried to get some other plan in there anyway.
yes, sir.
So, okay, I can explain it to them.
Anything else for Lynn?
Yeah, Lynn, on the, so one of the reasons we were trying to hold this meeting, we're in the middle of the budget, and, you know, I need to let everybody know, and especially in the grants right now, which is the first set of budgets that's presented to the board, what to include as next year's premium rates. So, you know, looking at what you've seen, what are and possibilities of next year, I need a recommendation to present to the board as to what we might increase the rates for next year, because that has an effect on the grants and how they budget, what money they have left to budget for other things as a benefit.
So,
Is the question if there's a rate increase or what the rate, what is
Both.
the rate?
Yeah, both, because, you know, we've seen inflation and we were seeing some really high claims for a while, for scary high claims for a while, and, you know, so we need some direction in that point, we need to present some stuff to the board at this point.
I don't think premiums are on the agenda. I was not asked to include it on the agenda.
I think
It's-
that's part of the HUD report.
It's not an actionable item, but it's a discussion. Because Lynn, you do have a deficit. So that's what Lynn was going to just at least tell you, that there is a deficit, so
What is
there
the
needs.
deficit?
well, there's a deficit on the fiscal, okay, basis. If I were running preliminary numbers right now, our funding versus our forecasted claims for the rest of this fiscal year would put us at about a $2.5 million deficit, which would call for about a 4.3% increase in rates, okay? But the claims are coming down right now because we're at the beginning of the year. At the same time, we'll be presenting some saving strategies that do not decrease benefits or anything like that. And we've talked in the past, we have not had any rate increases in the past, but from a budgeting standpoint, it would not be, it would be probably prudent to increase funding some 2.5–3% at this particular point.
So I can say unequivocally, before Carol says it.
Oh, yeah, you know I'm coming.
We've made clear that our preference is not to have ever faced with the large increase that we can avoid it. That's what we have, you know, if we need smaller increases, that's a different thing. But I don't know how we can be doing this when it's not on our agenda.
It's actually in the page 4 of our book, the deficit.
Yeah, but there's no mention of premium increases.
No, he's just telling you where you stand. And in the review, he's
Where we
mentioning
stand right
the
now.
$2.5 million deficit. He is coming back at a subsequent meeting to have an actionable item, but he's letting the committee know that it will likely either be cost-saving measures or we will need to look at premium increases. Based on that page 4, the $2.5 million deficit projection that he mentioned earlier.
But it's getting better in January and February.
That's because your deductible is reset. We had multiple weeks of high claims of the of the end of the last year.
But usually what happens before we get to the premium increase is the cost-saving measures, which weren't in this. So I assume that'll be at a subsequent meeting?
Yes, ma'am, next meeting.
So we had discussed, basically, maybe a couple of years ago, but increasing just a little bit every year, and people can absorb something like that. They know the drug costs are going up. I mean, that's one of the biggies. And of course, when you go to the hospital and you're paying, $20 for an aspirin, we know the cost is going up. So I guess maybe what we're saying is that should we perhaps look, and this is just a question, should we perhaps look at maybe increasing maybe a 0.25%, maybe 1%, every year, just to follow because inflation right now is rampant, and it's going to be worse.
And listen,
That's
these little ladies start calling me.
That's all it's going to be.
Yes.
I mean,
Your call and your decision.
yeah,
Well,
instead.
we can't
Even
make
with-
a
even
decision,
with
we
that
can't make any
deficit.
decision
No, it
until
can't
we
be,
see
no.
the cost-saving measures
Yes.
first.
Right.
And that's what we've always done in the past.
So we'll look at cost-saving measures first. I'll also look at some benefit alternatives for you. And then any kind of rate impact, but with more favorable claims, with the cost-saving strategies. I'm not here to tell you that next meeting, unless claims went to $1 million a week or something like that. I mean, even with all of that, 2.5–3% would be where we'd be probably looking.
And our last one, several years ago, was at 3%, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken?
January of 21.
So
21.
Nothing impactful, nothing major, but I mean, we've got some
Lynn,
high-cost
Lynn,
claims.
I'm gonna say again, because I'm thinking about this little old lady who gets maybe $700–800 a month. Her price of eggs is high. We need to seriously look at a small amount, a small increase every year, even when we have good years, to offset when we're gonna be slapped in the face. Because we're gonna get a slap in the face, and these people it's gonna hit them hard. Because gas is high, I mean, everything is costing more, and now we're looking at possibly a 3–4% increase in premium. That's a lot. I've asked that a whole bunch of times. This is nothing new.
So we will have this discussion at the next meeting, as I understand it?
And they give a multitude of examples of what the increase would be on the average for different people and stuff, and what it would generate and that kind of stuff. So when you talk to somebody, you can explain to them, this is what it is, and why.
And we'll know that you're going to be also maybe coming in with cost savings plan. I mean, so we understand that part of it, but it's not to hit the employees with the 5% increase. Okay, that's the sort of thing that really blows everything apart. Then they're going, what? So I agree. A small percentage every year and it just simply follows inflation. I mean, I paid $7,000 for a truck in '73. It's not that today.
10 times that.
So I mean, yes, 10 times that today.
Anything
Also,
else
then-
for Lynn? Okay, Mary Jane?
Are we projecting like for some of these high-cost medicine, like with diabetes and stuff, that's supposed to be projected to be going down in this year?
No, ma'am.
Biden said $35
Rebates on them will
was
be
the
going
cap.
up, but I can tell you your diabetes utilization is gonna go up. It is on everybody's. Other things will be going down.
Utilization, but what about cost? Utilization will go up, but what will the cost be?
The cost of diabetes medications are not going down. People are lucky if they can get their diabetes
Oh, yeah,
medication.
they're having trouble. I forgot which
Let
one
me-
it is, they can't get it.
Let me give you an example with me, okay? They put me on a new medicine for diabetes, okay? And it's working. Last month, I got a 30-day script. Last month, I paid $45 for 30 pills. I went last week, I paid $65 for 30 pills. Now, they're working, but it's working me too. So, It's just part of what's going on. But then again, when you look at what the pharmacy gives you, the cost of this thing for cash is over $600.
Right.
I'm
And then you
going,
also started your deductible again.
well, see, that's, there are things we have to do. We understand that, but it's just the cost of the medicines, when you're going at a cash price of $600 and you can get it for $65, So,
All right,
That's why
if
you
there's
pay
nothing
that
else,
premium.
anything else for Lynn, because we've got a long agenda.
Yeah, that's why we pay that high premium.
Anything else for Lynn?
I do want.
Okay, well, look forward, not with anticipation, to your recommendation. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes. So moved. Julia, is there a second?
I'll do it.
Donna? Any comments from the public? Is anyone still here? All those any comments from anyone on the committee? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And just so everybody knows, we do a voice vote, but it's recorded by person in the minutes. Next thing on the agenda is the introduction of the new Apple member who is absent.
She's absent.
Is Stephanie James. Did everybody get the reminder I sent out? Email? Okay. So I assume she got the reminder. Our bylaws require that we elect officers at the first meeting of the calendar year. We have 3 officers to elect. I want to thank Donna Broussard, who got drafted against her will, but to be secretary, and she's going to let someone else take that position this year. So do I have a nomination for secretary? Vicky? So, is there any other nomination for the thankless task that Donna has done?
I move we get her in by acclamation.
Second.
There's a second. Motion by Butch, second by Carol. Any comments from anybody?
I have a comment, not necessarily, I guess the secretary as well. Are you an active member or retiree? Retiree. I'm John. I don't know if we met or not. It is an employee retiree committee. I think it'd be good to benefit for all of us if we had a equal representation or a member of an active member as either a secretary or vice chair or chair. Also to keep this committee going as people retire and as actives retire. You're a little closer to retirement than I am. But I just think it's a good idea, and just wanted to say that. I think it'd be in our best interest to do that as a committee, just because we're an active employee and retiree committee.
Sure. And it would, I guess it would help also to give actives that role, and then they move on into the retiree phase and, so forth. I'm not volunteering.
But sometimes,
Neil,
But
I got here. And
I am
still here.
agreeing with his statement, right? So,
I understand the statement, but also the actives are active
Yes.
right now in schools.
Right.
They've got more than they can handle, and that may not be something they want to do.
right.
So
But if
that- I
there's
think
somebody
that's-
who wants it, jump at it.
Look, and if you're active, you want,
Yeah, what do you want?
you can have it if
Express
you
your
want. I mean,
interest.
it's just, put your name in the pot.
Express your interest.
You gotta speak up.
Julia.
I haven't had enough jobs.
See, that's what I'm saying. You guys have got your hands full today, man.
Yeah.
Okay, next position is co-chair. Do I have any nominations for co-chair? Katie has been co-chair, done a great job. She's not here tonight. She-
Well, how
If she's
about-
willing, I'll move
Would you
that
agree
we,
to be co-chair?
you wanna be co-chair?
That's an opportunity for you.
Co-chair, chair, too.
But
You
you
agree?
got meetings here, you gotta come to.
Sure, I do.
Okay,
Oh, he'll be
thank you,
at the
thank you.
meetings. No worries. He'll be at the meetings.
I nominate John.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, is
I
there,
second the nomination.
Butch? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, John.
When you open your mouth, you can't-
Sympathy, John.
You'll never.
Okay, last one is chairman. Are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Nancy, unless somebody else wants it.
I second it.
But if somebody wants it, speak now.
Hurry up, call for the.
I'm not.
If you're active and you want to.
I have a 95-year-old mother, no, thank you, I appreciate it.
Can we nominate someone who's not here?
No,
No.
because they said no. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
So not in your name?
I guess, but this is my last year. Next item on the agenda is the establishment of our meeting dates. Trish, do you have hubs?
I do, yes ma'am. I've got 4 dates built out for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Are you looking at something like that? Okay. I've got March 14th, because that preempts right before we go to budget.
Right.
If the next conversation is gonna be about budget. I've got 4/25, April 25th, because that would be your quarter one.
Got
We
it?
always fit that March one in there. 7/25,
Okay. These are all Tuesdays, I assume.
yes ma'am. And
April
then
what? Yeah, I'm sorry, April.
April 25th,
Repeat that?
April 20th.
April 25th.
April 25th,
Got it,
July 25th,
got it.
and 10/24. These are all
October
Tuesdays.
24th.
That's what I'll.
Let me look at 3/14.
Anyone have any objection to those?
What was the March?
14th.
March 14th is Tuesday.
The board meets on the 15th, and you'll likely talk about budget right before, so.
Yes, we have to send a recommendation. It's one of our responsibilities. Do I have a motion to approve those dates?
So moved.
Oops, Carol,
Second.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Supplemental group term life insurance. Katie had asked for that to be on the agenda, just to let the active members know what has happened as a result of the life insurance. Our committee did not approve the change, but it was approved by the board. And some retirees, not all, but who have had the insurance, old insurance policy for 30 years,
Yes.
35 years, and had minimal increases every year, after this latest increase, her insurance increased from $100 a month to $169 a month, which is a significant increase for somebody on a fixed income. And so she wanted everybody to be aware of that.
I've had calls, Nancy.
You got calls
And we've had
too?
similar situations, yes.
I think we just have to be careful when we're approving anything or looking at anything to make sure we ask about premium increases, so we don't have that happen to some of our retirees who really can't afford it. Some have other life insurance and can afford to let this life insurance go. Because the thing about term life, for those of you who are active employees and young and can still afford to do this, your term life coverage decreases.
Yes.
So when you start this in the beginning of your career, and it might be a $40,000 policy with $100 a month premium or $80 a month premium, over 35 years, that value may go down to $20,000, but you're paying a much higher premium for it.
Yeah.
And that was not expected. I mean, Trish was kind enough to send out a notice before people got billed, but it was still a shock to people who got it.
And some people had to drop it because they couldn't afford it.
Yeah. I had 2 calls of people, but
It's hard to understand the big drop, what's going to happen, because God knows, over the years I've paid for the total amount that it was, you know.
This person had
Just from Katie talking about, I looked at mine, and that's what mine is, $170.
something.
And for 12 years, God knows I've paid, 30 years, I've paid a lot. You know, I don't understand the drop.
So Ms. Nancy had mentioned a rate increase. This is the exact same policy that Unum had. So when US Able came on board, it was the exact same policy. So there was no
I'm not
change
saying
there.
that, Trish, I'm not saying that. I'm just
Right,
wondering
with the
why.
exact same increases. So
no,
that's,
she had
Big
She had incremental increases for 35 years.
Yeah.
right, every 5 years.
Yes.
But she
This
did
is a
not
bigger
ever
jump.
have an increase this large.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, at age 65, it reduces by 25%. At age 70, it reduces by half. So that's where she's seeing she was at the 100.25, and then the next one is a 75 increase, and it went to 169 and some change. So that's why she saw a decrease and then an increase, because that benefit amount reduced at age 70. Does that make sense? It went from, let's just use an example. I'm assuming based on the total that you gave me, it's 50,000. So then at 65, she would have reduced to a 37,500. And then at age 70, she would have reduced to a 25,000. She would have had one.
But
Increase the
but the
premium,
premiums
yeah.
You
keep going
get
up.
paid more and get a whole lot less.
That's exactly
Right.
But that,
So
what
you
you're saying
can't
is
have
that
a
would have been
dime,
the same
you
under
can't
the
have-
plan.
but you can't have another
Yeah.
birthday.
So it wasn't the change of the plan that caused that, it was the aging of.
It's the aging,
Exactly.
it's the age category that you're falling into, and then it's also that, it's the last age group. So after 75, it's stable, I hate to use the word stabilizes, but there's no more increases, correct?
Exactly, yes.
It's the last increase,
Thank
it's the
God
largest
mine
jump.
doesn't change.
But her concern was that we need to know this before we make decisions, because she was not aware.
When we make decisions, what are you referring to? Because it's, again, exact same policy Unum had. US Able was an exact replica mirroring of it, but you got benefits with it. You got a guaranteed issue. You got a 3-year rate guarantee where Unum wasn't offering that. So it's not like there was a change in any type of plan. It was still consistent with the same Unum one, but you actually got more benefits with the
I
US
think
Able.
what Trish is also trying to say, if you had turned 75 in August 2020, you still would have seen the $69 increase.
Exactly.
Whereas you saw it now. It's just, if you had turned 75 in August 2020, you still would have had a $69 increase. You just happen to be turning 75 in this year, and it's just under a different name. We still would have had the $69 increase if you had turned 75 in August 2020.
Exactly, yes.
So they're mirroring
Yes.
what, okay, all right, well,
One contract mirrored the other, it's just that you got a 3-year rate guarantee with USA,
Yeah.
where
Right.
Unum was only offering
right,
one.
right. Well, yeah,
They
I
offered
remember
the guaranteed issue, there was a
I
lot of
think
differences.
that was the best way to describe it, is if you had turned 75 with the same coverage in
Right.
August of 2020, you still would have had a $69 increase.
Okay.
It's just unfortunate, it just looks like it would be different because we're under a different name brand.
Right.
But if you had turned 75 in August, it would have been the same.
it'd have been the same thing.
Yes, sir.
And I think her point was, she wanted active employees who are younger to understand what happens
When you jump in there.
when you buy life insurance.
Watch it, and
As
just
you're
keep
young,
monitoring.
you need to think about where you're gonna end up at 70, because there'll be surprises.
So the good thing with that is EBI meets with active members every single open enrollment to go over that with them. So they review it with them. It's just when you're a retiree, you leave the system, you either perhaps maybe don't remember that portion. Or,
All right, next item on the agenda, if nobody has anything else about life insurance, is chair report. Butch, let's get out of here.
I'm sorry.
Our bylaws require us each year to have our membership commensurate with the percentage of retirees and actives. And this year, there are 327 active members, 2,437 retired members of the plan. So the active members represent 55% of the plan, and retirees make up about 45% of the plan. So the makeup of this committee shall remain the same this year. That does not mean January, a year from now, it will remain the same. I also want to thank Vicki and Trish. They did a program on Humana that I got to watch the video of. I was out of town and couldn't come, but Vicki was kind enough to go for the committee and sent the video. So there is a video if those of you who didn't see it would like to see it. The school board last night approved an amendment to the board policy that governs this committee that hopefully will make our functioning and communication a lot better. So I hope that's the case, and we want to thank them for doing that. Bylaws, I got a call about bylaws. You want me to turn it over to you, Phyllis, or you want me to say what's?
Well, I don't know what you got called about.
I mean, why they aren't on the agenda? Because they're already set out.
Right, well,
I'd like to have it on the next agenda, definitely.
It will be.
Thank you.
There was a discussion about bylaws. Phyllis's committee did a great job. They had everything done. They emailed you all the bylaws, and then they got a request from the staff to add some changes, so they met again the Saturday before. We were supposed to have a Tuesday meeting and spent all morning. They incorporated some changes the staff requested, but not all the changes. And then the decision was made, not by us, but the decision I was given was that their bylaws could not be on the agenda unless there was agreement with what the staff had recommended.
Now I'd like to speak.
Right.
And so what we did as a committee, we met with an attorney just to make sure that we were in compliance with the board policy as well as the open meetings law. And after careful review of all of our bylaws and the request from staff, he determined that we were not out of compliance with our bylaws. So we're gonna meet again just to make sure, to refine it if we have to, but that's why we'd like it on the next agenda so we can get these passed.
My question is, it's our bylaws?
It is our bylaws.
So we don't have control of what we want in our bylaws?
Well,
Am I understanding that? Other people dictate what we must
I
have in
wouldn't
this
say
bylaw?
dictate, it was more a request.
Okay,
And so we reviewed those requests.
Okay.
And incorporated many of them, rewrote some of our verbiage so that it was more in line with what was asked of us. But I guess it was still not enough as far as what we.
but it's our bylaws?
Yeah, and according to the definition,
I'm not
the committee,
understanding. I'm not,
a committee does do their own bylaws. Yes, you're
yeah, I'm
right.
not
And
understanding.
it'll be on the agenda next
And we
month
can
in
discuss
March.
it.
Yeah, you have to talk, because I don't understand.
Yes, and so Ms. Carroll, to address that, we as staff, and when I say as staff, myself, Ms. Trish, sat down with the superintendent and also our council, and we went through the bylaws just to make sure that open meeting law and all that, because the open meeting law affects you as committee members if it's not in compliance of the bonds. So we met with the superintendent and we went through everything. And so it was not just Ms. Trish or her staff or myself. It was the superintendent where we sent back recommendations of what we felt would be as to be able to collaborate to build those together, since it does impact some of our actives and you as retirees and staff that sits here. So that's
So
why.
can y'all give me an example? Because I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I think it's on the next agenda.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
just discuss it
Yeah.
at the
Y'all
next agenda.
shouldn't have brought that hornet's nest out.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with everything that we need to be in compliance with. That's why we sought the advice of the attorney.
And one of our very astute members, Vicky, called and said, I got the bylaws emailed to me a long time ago. Why aren't they on the agenda? I said, there really is a reason. So, but they will be on in March.
Absolutely.
All right, Trish, you're up.
Okay. My first one on the list is ESSERS 2. So this is just a notification to let you know that the external auditors did come through and they questioned LPSS with regard to the hospitalization claims with regard to the ESSERS 2 funding. We did receive $1.2 million in grant funds with regard to COVID-related claims. There was hospitalization, there was vaccines, and then there was testing. When they did their audit, they questioned the hospitalization in particular to see if they were valid. Long story short, because we went back to the Department of Education and we petitioned their questioning of it. We've sent it through. Their attorneys have reviewed it, and we have since gotten it approved without further question. So this is more or less just a notification of that to let the committee know that there was a concern, we've addressed it, and everything is good to go moving forward.
She says, long story short, it is a long story. We battled for this, we fought for this, and we won.
And we're very grateful.
Yes, there.
Matt and Trish did a
We
phenomenal
pushed back hard.
job.
And we insisted that they send it back because they had approved it ahead of time. Billy had extensive discussions with the Department of Education on this was a legitimate thing. And then they come and they start questioning it after we pulled the money into which would have put us at even a huger deficit this year. And we really pushed back hard and had them go back to their attorneys and back to the Department of Education to make sure. And they came back with a resounding yes, because my philosophy was, if COVID would not have happened, this money would still be in our fund, basically. And that's that's what this money is for.
Sure.
And they eventually agreed with us, but it was a fight. So help, thank you. It was a fight, and we got help from Trish and from Lynn, and it was a lot, but
Worth the effort,
We're
thank you
lucky.
very much.
we're lucky because we have another amount this year, so it was really going to affect us in 2 years' budgets, and we were really kind of surprised, but we won at the end of the day. So
Did you say those were COVID funds?
Yes.
this was ESSER
Okay.
funds that were we
That's it.
part of the ESSER. I mean, there's 1,000 things that ESSER's can cover, but one of them
Right.
is COVID cost, right?
Correct.
And specifically in the grant, it says vaccinations and testing. But it doesn't specifically say hospitalization.
Hospitalization, yeah.
Because
That's what
most districts don't have self-funded insurance.
yes.
Right,
A big
right,
part of
right.
that was educating the Department of Education and educating the attorneys on what we have and how it's different than per se a premium to Blue Cross. Because Blue Cross, we don't have a
Right.
premium, we don't pay premiums, we're self-funded. So they had to understand that we were self-funded, that we weren't just paying for hospitalization costs. These were fiscal costs endured by the school system that were reimbursable under the grant, in my opinion, and in the original opinion of the Department of Education, which they changed on us after the fact, and we pushed back and got that done. So that was a lot of work. I want to congratulate Trish and everybody for working really hard to get that done.
Okay,
Cool.
next.
You had asked for a fund balance. We have an audited fund balance as of June 30th of 2022 of $6,177,334. This does not include any OPEB funding with regard to OPEB. 6 million, I see you looking, 177,334.
6 million.
6177334.
You got it, yes.
Now
As
let's
of
get to
June
that
30th,
OPEB. What did you say about
it does not include OPEB.
Should it include? I thought the board was taking care of that. OPEB.
The financials, because it's an accounting thing, but because the financials, we have to include OPEB as the liability, we pull that out. So normally, if you look at the financials, we usually deficit. So what we go to, we pull the OPEB out and we show what the true operational fund balance is. So that's what she means.
So how much you gonna give this year?
OPEB.
OPEB.
400,000 again or more?
OPEB goes from that BRT trust that comes out of every single premium. There's a $10.30, there's a
Paid for by the
$20.60.
general fund.
I am talking about the general fund.
Paid for by the general fund.
Paid for by the general
So
fund.
the 6 million is approximately, I think, 9 to 10% of total operations, which is about half of probably where we should be. Most people want to have at least 2 months. General fund, we do 2.5. So we're about halfway about where we should be in terms of fund balance, just for, a couple of cancer claims we can see could knock that out if we have. So in reference to 6 million, that's about what it, I mean, it's a lot of money, but in terms of total revenue, it's only about 9%.
So how much you giving to OPEB?
I don't have that calculated.
You talking about the board?
$10, $11.
Oh, $10.30 per member for single, $20.60 for anybody over 2. They do it per premium count of whoever's on the Blue Cross Blue Shield health plan. So that number will fluctuate.
I thought the $400,000 that used to flow to insurance and then we all complained because you were taking
Yes.
insurance funds, even though it came to us from the general fund. And so you were going to start just taking it out of the general fund before it ever came into the self-insurance fund.
It's part of the premium, right? It's part of the premium, it's the $10 or $21, part of the premium is paid for by the general fund or the grant, whoever's employing the employee who gets insurance. Now the general fund, it's also Title I and all the other grant funds. So everybody pays their share.
So do we have a total amount of what's going to OPEB?
It's coming from insurance?
Can we get that for March?
Yeah.
So Nancy,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to follow. So that 400,000 is coming from our insurance? Is that what you're saying?
No, what used to happen
Yes.
was prior to, I think 2 years ago, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but what used to happen was we would get the insurance budget and there would be a line item that would go to OPEB and it was about $400,000. And because we made such an issue of that, I think Mr. Santani got with you or something, it was decided that it was gonna come out of, rather than general fund give us the $400,000, we weren't ever gonna see the OPEB deduction.
Yes,
That it was gonna come out of the general fund
period.
or self-insurance fund before we ever saw it.
Yeah, it'll come out of whatever fund pays the premium, including Title I or any other fund. So it's not just general fund, it's anybody who requires, anybody that has all the insurance. That contribution comes from the fund, not the insurance.
So the insurance, it's not to get.
So it's not, is it coming from the self-insurance fund?
No, you just said that now, Needs.
No.
That answers your
I
question?
heard that, I heard it. I was following that. No,
It's tied to.
All right, Trish,
put that in the minutes.
contracts and services.
Okay, contracts and services, there were no contract renewals or any service renewals for this time period. The chart was listed when I emailed all the information to you. And this is just an advisement that we will be RFPing voluntary benefits because their contract does end on 12/31/23, so it's just a notification.
So you're doing an RFP for voluntary benefits?
Yes, ma'am.
Are y'all developing that?
I'm currently working with the superintendent with regard to direction and guidance.
The one we used last time.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Do not use the one we used last time. It was terrible.
I'm working with the superintendent, yes, ma'am, and Ms. Gardner with regard to it.
So will we see the presentations like we did the last time?
I'm working through guidance with the superintendent. When I get more additional information, the timeline, the RFP, I'll be happy to pass it along to you.
Thank you. So what about, there's some others that say they end in 22, December of 22?
No, ma'am.
Maybe.
The one that was on board docs is the most accurate one.
Oh,
And then the one that was emailed in the final email that I sent you just yesterday, or the day before
I printed
yesterday.
this from the
Yeah.
one you sent me last week or week before, when we were gonna have the last meeting.
Right, the one that I sent you yesterday had all the correct
Okay, so I
attachments
need
to
to
it.
redo
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anything else, Trish?
Blue Cross Wellness Incentive, just keeping you in the know, to the number of active participants that's the $250 wellness credit if you have our Blue Cross Blue Shield health plan. You're able, if you do the participatory points that equal the 100 points, you've got an online assessment, you have a physical, and then I call it your pick and choose items. If you do all those by our deadline, then you receive a reduction, a $250 reduction off of your deductible. So this is the head count with regard to the members who participated. We had 466 active member participants within the program and 147 retirees. So for active members, it was a 48-person increase from last year, and for retirees, it was a 23-person increase. So that's great. It's good to see that we're increasing that program, and we are communicating to members. I'll just make a note. Ms. Tamara heads up that program. She sends all the communications out to all the active members and the retirees. We do have a deadline change for next year. Everybody's always used to the 12/15 deadline.
Yes.
It will be 11/30, November 30th, for this year coming up, because Blue Cross is updating some information with regards to that we're gonna make some changes for the following year, so they need to shut it down about 2 weeks earlier than what we typically do. I believe Tamara sent out that email to active members about a week or so ago, and we had a big old yellow blinking sign on it that said November 30th. We'll continue to communicate that throughout the year to remind employees that, you know, we've got a few last minute members.
You know, like Neil and Mariner husband,
Just,
Jamie, her husband.
you gotta back it up about 2 weeks this year
Oh, yeah.
in order to get that, get that incentive.
Yeah,
So we'll remind you along the way.
and
So
not at the
that's,
midnight hour.
that's good to know.
Thanks. Yeah, I got it.
That's the updated
Yeah,
version.
I just got it.
I do too.
Thank you.
Okay, it went to both active and retirees. With regard to the next one on my list is the wellness event for actives. we've been trying to use our goals for 2023. We got the department together, we sat down and, you know, what are our department goals? How can we improve from year to year? 2023 is going to be the year of communication. We're going to provide educational and informational items to both active and retirees. We're going to work on active members during open enrollment. Are you on the right plan? Do you really understand our plans? Are you just selecting it because you selected every single year and you feel comfortable there? Where you could possibly change to a different plan and it may be a better choice for you. So we're going to educate and obviously let the member make those decisions themselves. We're working with retirees, we're providing the Humana informational event that I also want to speak on this evening too. We did something here in the boardroom for our active members about a month ago. I'm trying to remember if Ms. Donna came. I thought it was very informational. We had Blue Cross here, we've had Ochsner's Lafayette General Medical Center, just telling you what a biometric screening is, reminding you to go and get your annual physical, you know, it keeps you, that preventative is important, exactly. Telling you about apps that you can use on your phone and various other things. So it was great to have Blue Cross here talking about wellness and Ochsner's here.
Is that an annual? Is that going to be an annual thing or a semi-annual?
So we're working on it incrementally, correct me if I'm wrong, Tamara, maybe about once a quarter? Twice a year. We did one at the later end of last year, and then we just did one in January. Tamara sent out an email communication it was specifically geared to actives. We'll have a different communication for the retirees when it's their turn, different communication, but still same thing, trying to re-emphasize those things, tell them more about our plans, make sure that they're in the know. So with that said, I think it went really well. We had it January 12th in the boardroom, and we'll work on another date in October. So, and then my last and final, the next one was the Humana events. We had a great turnout for the Humana event. That, again, pairs with the communication. Most of our retirees just don't know that there's two plans. We often get that question. What may work for one may not work for the other. That's their choice. But at least if we can educate them on what their choices are, then they can make a better decision. So we have one coming up. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. We just changed it to an in-person event on March 2nd. This one that we just had on February 1st was an in-person event. We got such a large response to it that we had a wait list for the next one. Their boardroom holds about 95 people. We had 75 show up and at least listen. We've had a few members decide that they're going to try it. So the thing with regard to Humana, if a member does decide to elect it, they do have the option of going back to Blue Cross. I figured I can see the questions coming. Yeah. So they do have that option, whereas if you were not within a group plan, it would not be this simple.
That's true.
There'd be a medical certification and all that jazz. So, but with a group plan, we do allow you to go back to the Blue Cross if it's not your cup of tea. However, there's only certain times of the year to which you can do so. We pair it with our open enrollment, the same time period that we work with the actives. We say contact us during September to November, and then we'll make that change for you back in January. It just can't be you get on it in March and you say, no, this is not for me, I can't change in April. There is we've got that criteria where you gotta wait till the fall in order to make that changeover. But she came and spoke, she did a presentation, we videoed it, Mark came and videoed it so that, and then I sent member communications, and then last night I spoke at the board meeting, just giving them an easy access comparison between Humana and Blue Cross with some very general information, just so they can click on the underlying words on that one pager was a clickable link, just so the member can research it further and see if it's for them. If it's not for them, that's okay with us. We're just mainly in that educational stage with regard to Humana. So with that being said, members should be on the lookout for future communications. If you're interested, we'll probably send it about a week ahead of time. We filled up very quickly last time. We were done in about a day or so. And then we started taking names for the next wait list. So that's, I'm looking forward to doing several things this year. Staff is on board. They're super excited for it too. I've got different staff members wanting to head up different initiatives. And I think the more that our actives and our retirees know about their options, they can make better decisions. So my next one, Miss Nancy, is IRMA reimbursement notification. So we've been using the Blackboard communication that was approved last year in the budget. We sent out a IRMA reimbursement. IRMA is for high income earners who have, it's specific to Silver Scripts because you're going to be on a Medicare Part D like David prescription plan. If you're a high income earner based on a certain threshold, you're going to receive, I'm going to call it a penalty for lack of a better word. You're going to receive something from either Social Security or Medicare. And what happens when that happens, if you produce us documents and you fill out our accounting form, we can have you reimbursed for those monies that you spend. We've got several members that do it. We, with regard to the IRMA reimbursements, they send us in the information and then we reimburse them on a quarterly means, or we do it annually. If they seem to hold on to it for the whole year, we reimburse them for the whole time period.
And what are those limits, Trish?
Just because you asked me that, I think I brought it with me. Let me look real quick, and I may not. I don't have it with me, Matt. Hold on 1 second.
I don't think there's
You know, just because you asked me that one. Ha, I got it.
You girl, you go girl.
I grabbed my big stack. I wasn't sure where we were going. Okay, so for individual, it's 97,000 or more, all the way up to 500,000. For joint, you've got up to 194,000, all the way up to 750. So there's a breakdown per penalty.
AGI, or that's?
So they do a look back of 2 years period, 2 years before, with regard to the IRMA reimbursement. So we're in 2023 now. They're using the 2021 totals that the member would have received on their tax returns as to whether they would be penalized under the IRMA Part D. It goes anywhere from a $12 monthly surcharge to a $75, $76 monthly surcharge, depending on how much the member makes. But we have all this information listed on the website, and we sent out the communication via Blackboard. We included the one pager, that way the member could look at it and see whether that fit them. And then we did have subsequent calls, but I'm just trying to re-emphasize the communications that we sent out to members so you guys were aware. Anytime Miss Ashley sends out a communication to our retirees, we give Miss Nancy and the chair and the vice chair a heads up, because we figure you're going to be fielding phone calls with regard to it on your end too. We receive lots after we send out a communication as well.
But they really appreciate it because people are being informed where they never were able to be informed. So it was an expenditure, but I think a worthwhile expenditure. Trish, what's this cost savings to the board for Humana? Isn't it much cheaper for the board, the Humana plan, than the Blue Cross plan?
The board pays a portion of the premium, the whole premium, whereas they pay a partial premium with regard to Blue Cross. It would depend on, we have about 255 members under Humana. The monthly premium is about $215 per member, and that's the board's share with regard to what they pay for the member. With claims, that would be hard to quantify because they're going directly through Medicare and directly through Humana. But claims would be removed off of Blue Cross onto Humana because that's what they're electing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've got one more.
Okay.
One more, Ms. Nancy. The other notification that we sent out that we discussed earlier was the same one that Ms. Nancy had talked about, the supplemental group term life insurance. We did send out that notification. Every 5 years, a member's going to see an increase under the term life insurance. So I think we had about 150 members who were affected this year. We sent them out just a courtesy email, nothing specific to them, but we notified them that their pension would likely see an increase with regard to the supplemental life insurance, and that if they had questions, to reach back out. More or less put them in the know so that when they saw a $70 less on their pension, they would realize, hey, that must have been that communication that I received from insurance, let me try and give them a call.
And it's not just for retirees, it is for actives, so like, I'm gonna be hitting a number that has a 0 in the end. And so next January, my, will increase because I've hit my 5-year mark. So, yeah, so I'll be hitting that next step where I'll have my increase, so it's for actives and retirees.
And all term life insurance is geared that way. I have
It
a
is.
policy with AICPA and it's the same thing.
That's why we need to let people know who
Yeah.
aren't aware.
And that's a great idea with the communications that you're doing, and kudos to you for doing that, yes. Because I've had, people call and say, what's this all about?
It generates-
They're going, they're all of a sudden getting some information, they're going, what's this? So kudos to you, you've done a great job, and keep it up. And communication was what we were asking for in the very beginning, so, we're doing it, and it's awesome. So
Well,
thank you.
Staff fields, gotta give kudos to staff fields those phone
Well,
calls. Because when we send out a communication, they come rolling in.
Well, that's
But that's good. I mean,
Right,
Yes.
I'm just saying, yes, so, if you think there's 3,000 of you when we send out those communications, and just asking for a follow-up, hey, this one's specific to me, let me ask a few more questions.
Not a problem.
all right, next item on the agenda, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Rich, and a second,
I'm hungry.
Linnell, second,
17 seconds.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? March 14th,
Got it.
5:30, we'll be back.
Bylaws on.
With the bylaws on.
Yeah. We may have to bring some stuff with us. It won't? Okay, well, I'm gonna hold you to that, yeah.